pec tears, muscle injuries, ligament injuries, rotator cuffs, broken bones, shattered ribs. When the body's in a vulnerable state where it hasn't recovered or it hasn't rested like it's supposed to, your performance isn't going to be as good as what you expect it to be on a normal regular day. And then you don't meet your expectations, and that's where injuries arise because of that. Or, best case scenario, your volume could either be really, really too low or too high, and because of that, you don't get into your workouts, or you're there for ridiculously long amounts of time, and you just want to go home. You end up skipping exercises, you end up not doing sets properly just to go home, and then when you go home, you don't feel great, you feel awful, because you've not done what you said you were going to do in that workout. But I don't blame you. The workouts are ridiculously long or ridiculously short, so how are you supposed to find them enjoyable? How are you supposed to find them maintainable? How are you supposed to be consistent in them? And that's what we're talking about today. Volume is excruciatingly important in constructing a training program and your fitness journey as a whole. Being able to manage your volume, not only great for recovery, but for consistency in general. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How to decide how much volume you should have in your training program. We talk about more advice like this in the top link in the description. It's my community where we will basically just give you a top 1% physique in your age category if you just listen to the advice on there. So if you're investing in your fitness journey, it's a great place to go. First link in the description. Why does volume matter? The first question we've got to tackle. I was watching this podcast the other day, and it was about this PT, like he's some like world-class fitness instructor kind of thing, like a doctor, PhD, all that sort of stuff, right? And he was ranking on a tier list how effective certain methods of recovery was, and it was like S to F, and in like F tier was like the things you can buy, so like the muscle guns, like gels, deep heat, etc., stuff like that. Then in like C tier, B tier, as you got higher, it's like saunas, ice baths, like protocols that a lot of people use, that a lot of people talk about on the internet. And in S tier, on its own, was something called volume management. Now, I never heard of volume management at this point in my life, about 6 months to a year ago. I didn't really know what it meant. Volume management is kind of a vague term. Volume management is basically, as he explained, was managing how much sets you do, how much exercise you do within the given week. Seems absolutely simple, right? The less exercise you do in the week, the faster your body's able to recover because it's used less of its energy stores. It's that simple. So managing the amount of volume that you do can help you recover so much better than a sauna or an ice bath that you think is so productive. The one time you've been in a sauna, the one time you've been in an ice bath, you think you're the most productive person ever. This is so much better for your volume than that. For your recovery, than that. So when you're thinking about volume management, doesn't matter. Think about the time that you went in that sauna and you felt great. This is like 10 times better than that. You'll build more muscle when you recover properly. Because as you know, muscle is built when you go home, you rest and recover. And it's not actually built in the gym during the fitness exercises, during the bicep curl. It's not. It's during when you rest. Your body's now in a state of where it can synthesize the proteins that it's got and able to pack on muscle a lot quicker. So now we understand it's great for recovery, great for building muscle. Now, how do we do that? So the second thing we're going to go into is high versus low volume. They're the two types of volume that we've got, high versus low, and we're going to discuss today which one's more effective for recovery and just building on muscle in the gym altogether. Now, I would class low volume as 6 to 10 sets per muscle group per week. So if you imagine one set in the gym, let's say you're doing bench, one set of 10, that's one set. If you do 6 to 10 of those type of sets, obviously with different exercises, so maybe you do 2 bench, 2 incline fly, 2 incline, then 1 fly, stuff like that, then it comes to however many. So if you do 6 to 10 sets per muscle group per week, I would class that as relatively low volume, you know? Just for reference, that looks like 2 sets of bench press, 2 sets of incline on Monday, 2 sets of bench press, 2 sets of incline on Thursday. That's already 8 sets per muscle group per week, and that is nothing, right? Literally nothing. Most people will come around to me and be like, that's not training enough. That is what we call low volume, and you'll be doing low volume for every single muscle group every single week. And then high volume is more like 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. So you can imagine that's a lot more. For reference, that is 2 sets of bench press, 2 sets of incline, 1 set of flies on Monday. Then that's 2 sets of bench press, 2 sets of incline, 1 set of flies on Thursday, and then 2 sets of bench press, 2 sets of incline, 1 set of flies on Saturday. Now you can imagine that's loads. You're not going to have enough time to recover to the next day and stuff like that. That's loads. That's 15 sets per muscle group per week. So that's actually only the middle of the high volume range. You can go up to 18 or 20 sets if you really want to be in that high volume. And basically what we know so far is that scientific studies have basically said that high volume is king. High volume is the main driver for muscle growth. And so everyone's seen that and was like, oh, all right, we'll just do high volume then. But interestingly, every single time they carried out that study, it was actually carried out with just one muscle group, or like they trained everything else like relatively normal or low volume, and then they would train one muscle group high volume and test that, or they wouldn't even train anything else at all. For example, they just train quads high volume and just say, oh yeah, like quads grow a lot from high volume. So when everyone said high volume was king, it was actually incorrect, because if you were to train high volume for every single muscle group, you can imagine that's not great for volume management, it's not great for recovery, and therefore it's just not going to work. It's going to be too taxing on your nervous system. You're not going to be able to recover properly, and then you're not going to be able to put as much effort into the next high volume set, the next high volume workout you've got, and you're not going to get as much benefit and as much gains from that. So you can see how just high volume doesn't work, because it's just too fatiguing. Now, just low volume can work if you train at a super, super, super high intensity. Now, I wouldn't recommend this, especially for beginners, because you don't know what high intensity is. You don't know how hard you can push yourself. You could have took me 6 months to a year into going to the gym, and I would turn around to you and say, yeah, I go hard in the gym. I'm so intense that I work harder than anyone. Bro, I had like 5 reps more in the tank. You know, you don't know what true intensity is when you first start going, which is normal, it's fine, but that's why I wouldn't recommend just low volume. So we understand that both just high volume and just low volume aren't going to work. But if you're going to choose one, because the title of this is high versus low volume, I suggest for you, do low volume. Definitely, if you had to pick one, do low volume. However, there is a new tactic that has been discovered, the new like meta, if you will, and this is what I'm going to be doing for my program in the future, and I want to recommend everyone that watches me and what I do to do in their programs as well. So we said low volume is better, right? Low volume is better on paper for muscle growth, because it's not taxing on your central nervous system, it's not making you too fatigued, you're able to recover when you do low volume, you're managing your volume quite correctly, you're going to have good recovery, good muscle growth, right? However, we also know that from the scientific studies that one muscle group will benefit very, very highly from high volume training when the others are kept at either no training or low volume training. Don't you see how this fits perfectly? We're already doing low volume training, so we can just pick one muscle group to do high volume, and we're going to reap the benefits that scientific studies suggest. So the protocol that I will be taking is that I will pick one muscle group to do extremely high volume, like 15 to 20 sets per this muscle group per week. And then the rest of my training will stay the same. It will just be low volume. I've always been a low volume guy. I've always done low volume. So my rest of my training is going to stay the same. I'm just going to pick one muscle and I'm going to be able to do that at high volume. That way, I'm not overtraining because I'm still keeping the rest of my training at pretty low volume, but I'm reaping the benefits of using high volume in my training because I'm only using one muscle of high volume. So for me, for instance, the muscle that I want to bring in the most currently is my back. Like my mid back, my lats aren't as great and as proportional as the front of my body, right? So that's the thing that I want to bring up. So now I'm going to be doing back for around 15 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. So for the back for a week. So right now it's at 16 sets of back per week. And the rest of my training stayed the same. Like 8 sets for chest, 8 sets for shoulders, 8 sets for arms, you know. Like everything else has stayed the same. But back volume is going to be extremely high so I can maximize the growth of my back. And then once I'm happy with the results that my back has got, I'm going to then switch the muscle. I recommend switching the muscle every 8 weeks or so, 8 to 10 weeks. You're going to switch a muscle. So in about 8 to 10 weeks, then I'd switch it to probably going to be my chest, because the chest is another weakness that I do. I think I'm very arm dominant in my physique, so I want to bring up my chest a lot. So I'd switch up the chest then. And then that's going to be my program. Low volume for every muscle group except one. That way I'm not taxing my nervous system, I'm having a good recovery, and I'm able to then grow muscle because of that, but then I'm also reaping the benefits of the scientific study. Now, one more crucial thing that we have to talk about before we end it, training intensity. When I used to do low volume, it was every set or failure. It had to be, because you had low volume, you had to make up for it with the intensity that you do. But now that I'm doing one muscle group till for high volume, it doesn't really make sense training to failure every single time. So what we've done is I'm still doing 2 sets for the back exercises that I'm doing high volume. Obviously I'm just doing more exercises just because I like 2 sets, give me a bit of variety. You can do 3 or 4 sets of the same exercise if you like an exercise, that's completely fine. But I would suggest that the first half of the sets that you do for an exercise, take it to 1 to 2 reps in reserve. Now a rep in reserve is basically just how many more reps have you got left before you hit failure, before you can't do any more. So if you say you could do 10 reps of lat pull downs at like 80 kilo, for example, that's as much as you could do. I want you to stop at 8. I want you to stop at 8, leave 2 reps in the tank, and then when you get to your last 1 set specifically, then train till failure. Just because if you train till failure on every single set that you do on the high volume part of your program, you're just going to again over fatigue, and you're not going to be able to get as much benefits from the later sets or the later exercises because you'll just be so exhausted. So I keep a couple of reps in reserve for the first few sets, and especially on your last set, then push till failure. That's how I'm going to be carrying out my future program. Low volume for the most of it, then high volume for one specific muscle group, and then exchanging that muscle group every 8 weeks. I can't wait to read the benefits from this because it is supported by science in every single way. Because this is I'm just so excited to be back in the gym again. Honestly, like when you hit like a plateau when you're training and stuff, it can be quite boring to do. I've done the same protocol for like 3 years, bro. I've not changed it. So I'm super excited to have found something out, and now I'm going to change it. I can't wait. If you want more advice like this, how to grow a great physique, top 1% physique in your teenage age group, then top link in the description is my community. Join, it's like half the price of FIFA, bro. Like, come on. Like well and good playing Ultimate Edition of FIFA for £100, bro. It's half the price of that, and it's a great investment into building an insane physique. An insane physique will get you there as quick as possible. Gone through all the mistakes that I've made, and I'm going to help you with that so you can grow the best physique. You've also got private access to messaging me and the other people that are like-minded that also want to build a great physique that are in there as well. Second link in the description is my private Instagram. If you feel like anything hasn't been covered in this video, or you've got a question to ask, message me on there, bro, and I'm sure I'll help you with any fitness stuff you've got as well. Some personal advice from me there as well. So that's it for today on volume. Have a good session, bro, and I'll see you soon.